Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to Otaku. Back again, reviewing more Tezuka Manga contest submissions, even though the contest is closed now. So don't try to submit your manga. It's done. You missed your chance. If you don't know what it is and you're somehow stumbled upon this video, it is your chance to get a one-shot serialized, and when I mean serialized, just put into one issue of Weekly Shonen Jump and
in a
win
box.
2 million yen if you win. So an insane prize, and even better than the money, someone says, you get the chance for your manga to be reviewed by some of the greats of mangakas. I'm talking author Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Blue Exorcist, My Hero Academia, Slam Dunk, and then of course the people at the Tezuka Productions who are putting this on, they will look through them as well. And they should be announcing their winner in December, I believe, so stay tuned for that. Until then, we're going to bear the torch. We're going to run it like the Olympics and keep it going all the way through then. And we're going to read 3 entries every week. We're going to discuss them, see what we like, see what we don't like, and then we're going to pick a winner every week until eventually we put them all back against each other and we pick our grand winner. So this week, we're going to be doing Runebound by Natalia Batista, Air Rider by Comet Ken, and Descendant of the Vanquished by Abisa, in that order, actually. So we're going to go ahead and start with Runebound. And I'm just going to hop right in. That's going to be my presentation to you all. So the first page, we see what is a badass woman kind of walking away from a burning house. And it's a little bit of foreshadowing, and I had immediate worries because the text on the first page is using it like a rune-based font. I was so concerned the whole manga was going to be in that rune-based.
I saw this, and immediately I was like, oh, this is like the Thor comics. They do that.
So, Jose, I got to tell you
be
something.
miserable.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
I saw the comment for the recommendation for this. I was like, you know what? Jose will really like this. So I picked it. I picked it. I yoinked it from the list because we just got this recommendation. I picked it up the top, and I was like, Jose will like this, so I'm going to pick it.
Sam's a fucking
You better sell it.
Yeah.
Because I read it already.
I got it. So we see a young, weak-looking man. He's doing farm work. He says pretty much from dusk till dawn that he works with no rest. Each passing day, he can feel his own body start to wither away more and more. And we find out here he's a slave. He's used purely by some old, abusive, let's just say old hag. And she gives him 1 meal a day, and it's really hardly anything. So you can kind of get the correlation of why he's slowly withering away here. Our main character says living like this is basically a slow death, which, I mean, yeah. His value is so low that it's not even worth for the old hag to try to keep him alive. And he's kind of doing a lot of self-introspection at this point. He's so useless. No one needs him. He wishes he had something to live for. He gets pretty deep into how useless he is.
It feels like he's on keto because he's withering away. That's not a huge meal. I don't see much carb going on, but he's still cognitively functioning, like very hardcore, which is a huge benefit of keto.
I mean, look at how much weight he lost. We don't know what he looked like before that. He's looking
true. He could have
slim.
been a thick boy.
Huge. This is exactly what I was thinking. Thank you for bringing it up.
So this poor dude who's on keto, he's forced to do labor. It's a horrible life. We then hear some knocking on the door. You would think it's the police with how many times this woman has knocked on the door. Because then we see the girl who is featured on the first page barge in. She says her name is Hilda, and she's a Valkyrie in training. And she demands that they give her food. Of course, the old hag, the stingy woman, says no and get out of my house. So, of course, she's not getting out of the house. So she sends who we learn his name is, I'm going to say Aske. Does anybody have a better pronunciation than that?
I prefer to ask, and we're just going to run with it at this point. Because
Okay, let's go with Ask.
Let's go with Ask.
I hate to ask.
So she sends Ask, which, that is our MC, but just set this record straight. And she's like, go tell her to leave. So he scurries forward, and that's when Hilda immediately grabs his wrist, cuts a rune into his arm, and then she uses like the blood from the cut that she made to cast Fire of Acer, which lights
firebolt.
Basically lights the old woman on fire and the house. Well, the arm of the old woman. She's not completely on fire.
So she is pretty much a police officer at this point.
Yeah, she, no warrant, fires immediately. I think we've got her marked because then we see Ask faint and collapse out of nowhere. And Hilda, which she's keeping her eye on the ball because the house is on fire. She immediately goes to get some food, takes an axe. You got to remember why you're there in the first place. She sees Ask on the ground on the way out. She kindly pulls him outside, which Ask goes to say thanks to her, and that's when she jumps on him, hand on his neck, holding the axe above his head, just completely ready to kill him, which seems like you could have accomplished the same thing by leaving him inside the house. So a little redundant on that one, if that's what she was originally planning to do. He begs her to please let him live, and she basically explains she has to kill him because the rune that she made on his arm makes him her trail, and that binds the two of them together. So because they have that bond, she can't make another trail. So as long as he lives, she's got to basically kill him to get a new one at this point, because he's weak and she needs a strong one. So R.I.P. to Ask. It was a short life. It was nice knowing
He didn't ask for this.
Okay, we're going back to Aske. He's Aske now. The Ask name is in ruin. Aske pleads and promises he'll get stronger and become a great trail for her. So please let me live. She agrees. She lets him go and tells him to at least be useful by carrying her stuff, which that's the least you could ask for.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like if somebody's threatening to fucking decapitate me, I'll be whatever the fuck they want me to be.
Yeah, I gotta agree, 100%.
Agree.
I'll be the best fucking fairy you ever wanted me to be, girl.
It's like, I don't even know what a trail is, but I'll be great at it, dude. It's like, let me in.
I'll let people walk me every week. It's fine.
Yeah, you just gotta feed me.
So at this point, I thought Hilda was maybe going to be our villain, and like this is going to be the start of the villain that we see.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is this could come into really, like, you could have a villain like this later where obviously it would have to be some sort of bad Valkyrie. Listen, I'm just throwing big picture ideas as always, okay?
Yes.
You have a bad guy who forms bonds with people's, like makes them their trail, and just basically sucks all the energy out of them and throws them aside like trash. You know, like keeps killing them and getting new ones over and over.
I see.
So you could have someone, So she's like, oh, I need to kill you to get a stronger one. But this person's like, oh, I don't care how strong you are. I'll just use all of your energy until you die, and then I'll get a new one.
Glass cannon approach.
Yeah.
Like, he's just got a mob of fucking like.
Yeah,
cultists
maybe
behind him.
he could be like a cult leader, you know, and so all of his people come up and they're willing to give their life for him, and you know,
Oof.
Just like Emperor Palpatine.
Could you imagine
I mean, similar.
submitting a one shot and then us critiquing it to the point of giving you an even greater addition to your current.
I'm just saying that would be a good idea. I would like that because I thought she was going to do that at the start, and I was really hyped for that because I like that fucked up shit. And then I was like,
they just kill the main character.
Yeah,
off the fucking
I
bat.
was like, hell yeah. And it was like, oh no, okay, this is going to set up the main story. I get it. It's a one shot.
Yeah.
So we then, next day, we join Aske as he wakes in the outskirts of a village, and Hilda nicely went and got him some clothes. And he does what no person should do, and, just ask where it came from. We should really just accept the gift.
Yep.
He asks if she stole them, and she ignores the question and wants to go get something to eat. Easy sidestep. We learned that Aske had become a slave when his village was raided when he was still a child, and they brought his family here. His family is now dead, and he had been sold and traded since then. Hilda explains that his hardships are the reason that he has such a strong spirit energy, because normally first-time trails rarely get that kind of strong energy, which is what she used to make the fire in the rundown hut. And she said, especially ones that are skin and bone, because that's what he is. The keto diet fucks you up.
Yeah, true.
So Aske wants to know where she's learned all of this info from, and she says she learned it from her teacher Siegfried. She's a Vilva, by the way. I had to Google how to pronounce that because it's V-O with a slash through it.
Isn't that like a U sound?
I think it's an I.
It's an I. I'm pretty
I
sure
Googled it, and they say you pronounce it like I and sir is what they say. So I'm going to go Vilva. She's a Vilva with magic knowledge and is in connection with the gods. So the Siegfried person.
She could have been Volva.
Yeah, that's exactly how I read that.
That's why I was like, whoa.
She probably's got a vulva, but we'll just move on from that.
Yeah, anyways.
Siegfried has taught Hilda ever since she was tiny, and right now Hilda is on the final trial. She must practice rune magic in battle so she can become a Valkyrie and join the Viking ships. So, side question here for the both of you. When do we find out that the Vikings were the ones who raided Aske's village very early on?
Ooh, fuck.
I'm just saying, when do we find it out? How many chapters deep?
Yeah, that's chapter 4.
This is, yeah.
You know it's going to come up, dude.
That's at the end of the volume. It's at the end of the volume.
Vikings, they raid things. He got raided. He got sold. Yep. They take stuff. I'm just saying, it's...
Sam catches these little things, and I swear to God, it's like you've read so much that you could just make your own manga. Like you could just,
he should.
I'm a piecemeal this whole thing together.
Everybody,
we're just going to grab the best parts from all the other mangas, and I'm going to make one mega manga.
Yeah,
it's gonna be in space though. Space Vikings.
Space pirates, Jose, please.
Oh, space pirates. Yes, yeah, I'm sorry.
So going back to Runebound here, we once again see Hilda has a big love of food because they're talking. She gets distracted very easily, and that's when Aske reminds her to please carry on with your explanation, and they get interrupted by Turid. I'm gonna guess. I'm butchering the names of all of these people, and I'm sorry. So Turid greets Hilda very nicely, and she's like, "Oh, we haven't seen each other since the regional junior Valkyrie tournament, so apparently that's a thing." And the ones that I crushed you at, which is how
Gonna
all
be-
great friends greet each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how me and
Frenemies,
Sam
dude.
say hi to each other.
Yeah,
every
the
day.
occasional finger, middle finger,
Yeah. Well,
Or, in your case, Josh, Sam will just walk by and just go,
yep.
which is the way that you greet people. Thank
doesn't
you, Jose.
even fucking say hello,
mhm.
So Turid says she wasn't even sure Hilda would still be alive because some Valkyries in training just don't make it to begin with. And
Still a
Turid
flashback.
Turid notices Aske and points out that they must be your trail, and he looks quite young and very skinny. Not the best pick for an energy source, so she says, which is probably accurate at seeing what comes up next. So this pisses off Hilda, and that allows her to get very easily goaded into a fight against Turid. So they plan a fight later once you're done eating, because Turid is just so nice. Just going to give her that time. They plan to fight on the hill later, and they'll meet up after she's done eating. So, of course, nobody knows when she's going to be done eating, so Hilda arrives first. She's placing stones with runes on the battlefield where they're going to fight. Aske asks what he can do, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just pull up your sleeve and open up your energy to me." Which, if I was Aske, I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, hello, how do I, so I'll
is
just
she
pull
just
up
gonna be
my
cut
sleeve
up
and
the
hope
whole
for the
time?
best." I don't know what that means. Like, I put my
feel
hands
like-
up like it's a spirit bomb.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations like, okay, you really have to do nothing. I need you to do this. And you're just so mentally unprepared that you just so,
It's like, am I
you just,
doing
like,
it?
get
Am I doing
into
it?
it?
So Aske asked, I don't know, I feel like I would never ask this question if someone told me that, but he asked if it will hurt, which is a very valid
oh
question
my, yeah.
because she does say, yeah, of course, but you're used to the pain, right? Which, I mean, ouch.
Damn.
Just because I'm used to the
Yeah.
pain doesn't mean I want to be fucked over and over again.
Exactly, because Sam would be asked. Sam would ask that question, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, it hurts about as much as getting your finger pricked for blood drawn." And Sam would walk the fuck away.
Yeah. Be like, well, it's been good. I know I said I'd be a good trail, but I think that's it for me, unfortunately.
Rather just get decapitated. Let's get this over with.
So at this point, Turid shows up and she calls out Hilda for putting out she calls them protective rune stones, and she says it's a sign she doesn't trust in the power of her trail. They get ready to fight. Hilda says, "Hail Freya, commander of the Valkyries," and Turid says, "Hail Odin, master of runes," because that's some kind of cool lore we got going on there. Turid makes the first move. She touches the chest of her trail, which looks very much like your stereotypical Viking. And
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
way
go ahead.
she slaps in that top right panel, it reminds me of that fucking meme where it's like you could fit so many Ingwans in this bad
Yeah.
boy. Like she just slaps that shit.
well, let me tell you, she can fit so much blood out of that bad boy because
Oh
that's
my
what
God.
she pulls out of the rune mark that is on this guy's chest. And she basically turns them into like vines, and she calls it Wrath of Frey. At this point is where I get a little confused, which is a running thing with these episodes where I get very confused in some of the action sequences because Hilda is able to block it here, by saying, "Nadir, Norns protect me," but I don't know what she did. She like slapped him or slashed him.
It looks like water,
Water.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell
Okay.
either.
That possible, but I don't really know. She did something against him and stopped him. Hilda stopped him, no problem, but then we see one of the vines grab Aske around his ankle and start to pull him his way. And then she casts the same spell again and is able to this time sever the vine from Ash's foot and save him. Turid asks why she doesn't use her trail to fight because so far she's just been pulling energy from the stones that she placed earlier. And Hilda basically tells Aske, okay, get up, remove your bandages. Turid says Sleipnir and then summons the steed of Odin. So yeah, they're doing cool spells right now. They're summoning vines. They're doing the water, we'll say. And then she just summons a straight up fucking war horse to charge at the other person because I guess that's a spell. Like, good luck, Hilda. You're going to get trampled by a horse. That's a horrible way to go.
Yeah.
So Hilda pulls some blood from the rune that's on her own forehead this time because, as I've not mentioned, she does have one of those. You'll see them in the picture. That's on you for not knowing before that.
Yeah.
And then she says Algi's Spirit Force, and then using this move, it stops the horse, but it wears out Hilda and makes her fall to her knees. Like, she's exhausted from doing that because she pulled her own blood out. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So Turid once again is like, yo, why don't you use your trail? I feel like I'm fucking in the Ichigo fight where everybody keeps asking why he's not using Bankai, dude. I'm having PTSD.
Yup.
And then finally she puts it together that clearly Hilda has never used her trail in battle before. She calls Hilda a disgrace and someone who is not even worthy to become a Valkyrie. She says she's going to finish her right here. Put her out of her misery. You're so shit at your job, let me just put you out. And that's when we see someone shout no, and we see that it's Asuke standing up. He's removed his bandage and tells Hilda to do it. She pulls the blood from his she pulls the blood from his rune, says Kanaz, which is the fire spell she did at the very beginning, shoots it at them, and we see Turrid's Trail block it with his shield, which seems like that wouldn't be the best idea to do against a bunch of fire, but it does work at this point because Asuke faints and falls backward once again. So Turrid says she knew that he was too weak to become your trail, and it's time to end this fight. And Hilda shouts Stodfa, which means stop, as we see in the nice little bubble, and resigns the fight. Turrid calls her garbage and basically leaves. Like, yeah, I'm not going to waste my time here. You suck ass, bye.
Not even a GG after
yeah,
that.
no GGs were said there.
Yep.
So it was not a great showing for Hilda. We do see Hilda kneeling on the ground, blood dripping from her head, and she kind of looks like she's about to cry. She's devastated by this. Then we get a really cool scene, kind of out of nowhere. We get to see Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life for you peasants out there that don't know that. We see 3 women around the tree kind of touching the threads that are coming off of the tree. And they see a thread just snap in two in front of them, and they look at the thread, and they basically mention, like, oh, it's so rough and tangled, which you do see in the image. And they go, poor one, it has such a tough life. Let's give it a break. Let's tie it back together, which I feel like if your thread just got knotted back together, it's probably not going to be the best life after that. But
yeah,
sure. It's like you're basically living a jerry-rigged life the rest of your life. So
you know what those 3 remind me of? You remember Hercules and the 3 witches down at the
Yes.
bottom with
I think that's normal. That's normal Norse mythology, though. I know they pull.
yeah, well, because of Yggdrasil, the tree of
Yeah.
life and everything, and Freya is goddess of earth, I believe.
What are they called? The 3 hags, or like the 3 muses, or something like that? I can't remember.
Something like that. Yeah, they're like muse. Back to it.
So Asuke awakens with Hilda right next to him. She said she was sure that he had died up on the hill, but then he started to breathe again, so she carried him back down to the village. She apologizes to Asuke at this point and explains that she's never had a trail before, so she doesn't know how to control how much power she pulls from him, so she legitimately thought she had killed him. She says there's one more thing that she has to tell him, and basically when she carried him down, she didn't feel the bond on him anymore, so she says she thinks that Asuke actually did die right there, and it broke the bond, which means he doesn't have to serve her anymore, and he can stay here in the village. He's no longer a slave. He can live a good life, and she'll go finish her trial by herself. At this point, Asuke passes back out, and we see that Hilda stays with him until nightfall and basically waits for him to be sound asleep and goes to leave the village. Hilda's leaving the village, and that's when we see someone running up behind her, and of course it's Asuke. He refuses to go back and be left by himself. He says the only reason that he's even alive right now is because of her. Before she turned up, he was dying, had no life, but she gave him the energy to live. So he owes her his life. I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't care if he has to risk getting killed by her, because he says that he has to be her trail. So please let me serve you, which seems like he's continued on the wanting to die trend from the beginning.
Simp.
Yeah. Could you imagine just having such a nut that you fucking die from it, and then you wake up, you get a second chance at life, and you're like, that was a good nut, I'm gonna stay with that chick, and you're okay with dying again?
Well, I mean, neither of them really know for sure. Like, they're just, yeah, I think you died, but it's like, he could be fine. I don't know.
I don't know.
True.
That's a weird conversation to have with a person you literally just met that cut your fucking arm open like a day ago.
But she's pretty much a goddess.
Well,
yeah, and she's hot as fuck.
yeah.
So
They do continue talking about what we were just saying, because Hilda does respond saying that he should be dead. And he basically was and started breathing. I mean, not basically, he was and started breathing again. She can't deny that. And then she says it's a sign from the gods. So she's got to. The gods gave you a second chance. You must be something special. Little do they know they just felt bad and they fucking retwined his thread.
Yeah.
So she exhales, goes to walk away by herself, and then does the classic and turns back to look at Asuke and says, well, you coming? And that's when we see them both go off into the sunset. And that is the end of Runebound. So I like this one.
It was nice.
Quite
Yeah, I
a
really
lot.
liked it.
I thought the art style was really good. Like, it was
fantastic.
just like a regular manga that you would read.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
really, really good. The combat part was the only part it slipped up for me, where me personally, I got lost. I don't know and I
I
mentioned
just
that as we
didn't
were
know
going.
what got summoned or what she used. That's the only little thing.
Yeah,
But
that was the
other
part
than that,
that
I
was
thought
a
it was
little
pretty
weird.
great.
There was a part also where, so right after they burnt down the first building where she rescued
The hut,
Asuke
yeah.
from, they go to the next town and they're asking about if she stole the thing, and all the other buildings have smoke plumes coming out of them. So when I first looked at that, I wasn't sure if she also just burnt down that village because they're the same
I
exact
get
smoke
you.
plumes coming out that the on
Gotcha.
fire building had. But I just think that just means there was people there. I assume
Like
that,
they were
or she
cooking.
maybe
Yeah.
murdered a whole fucking village.
But she would need him there to do that stuff. I
Yeah,
think.
but I
Yeah.
think they go back to that village. So
Got
I
you.
don't think she did that. But I did like the Nordic theme. I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that's not
Yes,
touched on
sir.
a lot in anime and manga. There is Vinland Saga, which I know is super popular and had the same theme, so people clearly like it. And I don't think it's overdone at this point.
Yeah, and I mean that's like a well-established thing. They've got like years of shit to pull from.
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah,
they've got
definitely.
a lot to do with it.
There's
So
just
hot
so
right now,
much lore
Assassin's
between
Creed
all of
coming
that.
out with that too. So
Yeah.
hot right now. And
What
it
I-
reminded me a lot of, I don't think either of you have seen it, but this is for the people out there. It reminded me a lot of Familiar of Zero, which is kind of an older anime about like kind of a Tsunandre chick, and she summons somebody from another world to be her familiar, and she acts like she's all that, but she's really a fuck up
Not
and she
that
can't
great.
do anything. So kind of very similar to this,
Is
but
it
they're
like
like
how to pick up girls in the dungeon also?
a little bit, but it's more Familiar Zero where it's like, but Familiar Zero they're at a school setting, like for wizards and knights and stuff.
Ooh,
So if
that's
they
kind of
go-
badass too.
If they go to a Viking school, then it's so similar. But I really liked Familiar of Zero, so I don't hold that against it. But it is a little similar to that. I did like Hilda a lot, but I didn't think her personality was anything too like out of the ordinary. It was very
Outstanding.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do. I would say they did a lot of character development on Asuke, but it is a one shot, so they didn't go full into everybody's fucking story.
Yeah, but
I
I can see
do
where
have-
this is going.
Yeah, exactly. They like, and because it's Norse mythology, like they can play off that entire scope of stuff, and it's still a good story regardless.
Will
They can
there
just-
be a meal near the here?
no, Jose?
Please not.
Yes, but I
Don't
want to
make
pose a
Jose
question.
happy.
I feel like she tells us at the end of the fucking, or near the end, that basically I can't control how much fire I pull out. Was she intending to fucking murder that lady at the beginning?
So I think she was saying she can't control how much like energy she pulls out of him. So
Oh,
I would assume. I mean, it's too hard to judge off her character at this point. She could have. She could have
'cause
been
she literally just
killed.
murdered a woman.
Because she was
Yeah, for
planning to
food.
kill Asuke. She was gonna
Yeah.
take him the fuck out. But we don't know if that was like a, I have to do this to be stronger. Like maybe she's got like a
Yeah.
stronger motive somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I also have to kill hags for a fucking sausage. Like that. It's all a part of Norse mythology. Wild shit. But yeah, I think it was good. I really do. So
Yeah, they do a good job of, they kind of give it to you. They give you a few pieces of information, and then they kind of like, here's what she's gonna train to be a Valkyrie. She gotta train in combat is what her whole mission is. There's clearly tournaments that happen, and there's an academy. They say
And
like
they-
A whole lot. Yeah.
they set up a rivalry too. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. So we've got that from the get go. It's like Pokemon, but with human people.
Oh, it's like Gary. We met
Oh
Gary.
yeah. Yeah.
Gary.
Gary
Fucking Gary.
and his Needle Queen.
Yeah, yeah. So I did like it at least a lot. I don't think it broke the molds on anything, but I think that's fine.
No.
You don't have to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel every time. I think this
Yeah.
can still be fun and good and go on.
Yeah.
So, okay. That was Runebound by Natalia Batista. Cool name. And we're going to move on to Air Rider by Comic-Ken. So go ahead.
Sweet. So Air Rider's pretty cool. Like, and in my notes, I wrote down a lot of commentary for it, but it's actually pretty simple. It starts with an experimental high school where the teachers just teach and the students govern themselves pretty much. And there's the occasional kid that does have powers. And so we just jump straight into it where, you go to school, your average school has those metal detectors. You get scanned every now and then and stuff. But you meet this kid named Eric, and he's totally just hitting on a chick. It's kind of like everyday high school stuff. He's like asking her out. She's like, I don't know. And then she's like, well, if you do this for me, you have to beat up my stalker, which is some nerdy looking kid named Horatio. You get the vibe that this kid, Eric, is pretty much just a delinquent the whole time. He's just kind of does whatever he wants. He tears down posters and stuff, and he's talking about how he's going to beat up this kid. But after he hits on this girl, I think her name is Maria, he dips out and he starts walking this other girl home, June. Well, not home, but he's walking her to her next class. And you get the feeling that they've kind of got like a very simple relationship or so. Everyone kind of dislikes this kid. He's looked down on. You do get that crazy tidbit that his father was a school shooter.
Which was fucking wild.
Yeah, apparently he took. Yeah,
It's kind of interesting because I feel like that commentary is kind of so relevant now that nobody's really touching that. So it's just like when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, because it's in a school setting and he's the son of a school shooter. It's like, oh, okay,
and
wow.
He's clearly like not a normal like goody two shoes. Like he doesn't even lay low kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
and he's just
I
kind of
felt
like
he could have been the villain from the get go. Like they were literally just building up villain backstory.
Yeah, it seemed very much like that. But he has a soft spot for this girl named June, and he like walks her to class every day because she's afraid of running into superpowered people and getting into problems and stuff. He basically just kind of gets her to like go even faster, takes her to her class, and he's like, "Okay, I'll pick you up afterwards, whatever." But as this is happening, you get the whole Naruto kind of feel where it's like everyone hates you because you got the demon fox in you. He's like, but not everyone hates you, and then you find out it's June it's like pretty chill with him. To that, it cuts to this young kid named Colton who's holding a camera, trying to fix it, and he's being yelled at by his sister and her friend. She's just complaining, saying like, "Hey, I'm like the editor in chief of the school newspaper, kind of thing. Like, you better fix that. There's a ton of superpowered people, and you know they're doing all these crazy things. We need to record it all." Immediately cuts that, and you see our boy Eric run up and just slam. He's like, "Yo, give me your homework, nerd. Give me that shit." Takes it, and you see a little bit of hesitation and resistance from the kid, where he like puts his fist up, and you're just like, "Oh, he's gonna give him one." And unclenches his fists, he relaxes and stuff. And Eric's like, "Huh, I could have sworn he was gonna hit me, but decides not to." He's like, "I would have kicked his ass anyways, but it's fine." I'm not sure if he's supposed to be in class or not right now, but he gets caught by his old counselor, and she's like, I don't, yeah. But she's like, "Hey, like, you should come to my like after school project thing. It's like Fallen Angels, I think is what it's called." She's like, "You should definitely come. It could be life changing." Which I'm like, okay, this could set up some crazy stuff later down the line if that's where it decides to go. He's more of like, nah, I got to do my own thing. I'm going to meet with my new counselor now, who's the complete opposite of this lady. He's just like this, I'm going to call him a gym teacher kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, all we do here, he's like, well, I thought it was kind of funny because the first thing he asked is like, "Did you bring any guns to school?"
Well, if he's the son of the school shooter, you got to double check.
Exactly, might snap.
It doesn't seem biased at all.
No, not at all. But the kid decides to like, all they do is really work out, lift weights, all that kind of stuff. And his teacher kind of like, or his counselor throws in some questions, eventually kind of getting down into on more of a personal level, I guess, getting him to drop his guard. So they do that for a little bit, and they just talk about things, and it cuts back to June, and she's like, "Oh shit, class is gonna be over." She's kind of freaking out a tiny bit because she's like, "Oh, I hope Eric makes it in time," all this and that. But immediately the bell rings, and then everyone dips out of class except for her, and she's like tiptoeing, trying to get her way out. And then as soon as she's like, "Oh, maybe no one will be there, it'll be a couple minutes, blah blah blah," she gets outside, immediately attacked by two luchador people.
Wild.
Yeah, luchador dude tries to pull her out. She's clinging on for her life, but guy uses his powers and accidentally hurts her. I'm not sure if he broke her hand or not.
I think he breaks her fucking wrist, dude.
Yeah.
Does he really? Yeah, okay.
They do say something about like he broke her arm on accident or something like that. I was like, holy shit.
Okay, yeah. And I was just like, damn, dude. But they're like freaking out because they're like, "Oh no, we didn't mean to break her arm." But then when you know it, the boy comes in, punches him, and kind of like shoots him across the classroom. He's comforting her, and then fighting ensues, but he gets his ass beat, just like completely wrecked. Along all of this, June calls the patrol or the police, and they arrested two people, which I'm like, oh my God, you find out that the big buff dude is actually Horatio, the guy he was supposed to beat up. And I'm like, oh, the other girl in the mask might be that Maria chick.
Yeah, I think so. I think when he was talking to Maria, she did mention something along the lines like, "Oh no, it's you who's gonna get like what's coming to you." Yeah. So I do think she was setting him up, and it's very likely that that's who that is.
Yeah, because Horatio was like, "Oh, I hate bullies like you," and this. And I'm like, "I'm gonna put an end to you." And they talk about killing a lot.
Yeah. I think Eric is gonna be very much of an anti-hero.
Yeah,
like he's still gonna be a good guy, but he's gonna be like a badass. Fuck you, good guy.
Because as we learned, they take both of them to the infirmary. They get the other two kids after being tased. And then Eric pretty much gets kicked out of the infirmary because he doesn't want any help throughout this whole thing. And he kind of just, angry teenager kicks the door open, goes outside. He's kind of upset, and he kind of vows to himself that he's going to stop every superpowered kid. And that's pretty much where it ends. And it ends with a storm is coming.
So do you think he is going to take them on with no powers, or he's going to find a way to get powers and then try to take them on?
I think he's gonna do the no power thing.
Yeah, with
I-
like his gym teacher guy.
I
feel
do
like
think
it's
he'll
gonna
do
be
the
that.
Yeah.
no power thing, and then he will eventually get powers, because they do
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
talk when he was talking to his counselor. I bet his counselor, that group she was trying to invite him to, has some sort of way to get powers or like force people. Like, she seems sketchy about the fact that she wanted to invite him
Yeah.
to that club. She's like, "Oh, it'll change your life forever. I promise. Come on." It's like, oh,
Nudge,
so
nudge.
they're
See,
probably like fucking with students or something.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
taking
so
this
too.
more as like this is the boys but manga version, and she's just invited him to the club, and
It does
he's
kind of
gonna-
seem like
Honestly,
that.
yeah, I felt the same thing for a bit. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like it's worth noting the art style. I got a very kind of like
Archie?
classic comic. I was gonna say
Archie's,
Archie,
yeah,
like
Archie's.
a classic
Yeah.
comic
Yeah.
style.
yeah,
I really enjoyed it though. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very good.
yeah, everything it felt different. I like they kind of use Spanish in there as well, and then they throw
Oh,
the
yeah,
luchador in there.
Eric
it's-
does speak a little bit of Spanish, and
So
I don't know if
it's kinda
June
cool.
does. Yeah, it's an interesting little taste. Cause I mean, was it Chad be representing?
Now,
Mhm.
do you think if this, let's say this manga continues on, do we get a flashback of his dad shooting up the school? I'm just saying, are we going there? Like, let's say
I think
it's
we'll
gonna
see
be
the
a
reason
painted
why he
black.
did it. Yeah.
Fur-
further
gonna
down
be
the
like-
line, the main villain, the guy controlling the whole thing, all the powers that Eric wants to beat, he was at that school when his dad shot it up, and he ever since then he's wanted to take down Eric to get back at his dad because
That-
his dad's in a
yeah.
high, he arrested or killed, we don't know. He's
Yeah.
in high penitentiary prison, so he can't get to his dad. So he's like, I'll kill his son.
There was one super sick quote though that I do want to
But-
say, like really early on when the girl's like, or when he's like, just who the hell do you think I am?
Aw.
It's my boy.
Yeah, Knuckle Duster.
Yeah.
And this is where we plug shamelessly.
Yeah, watch our Mangaku, guys. We talked for almost 2 hours about My Hero Academia Vigilante.
That's just how much we liked it.
And we rambled the fuck out of it. So check it
did.
out. If you like this stuff, you'll definitely like that. But spoiler
It's just
warning
what-
for
yeah.
the any part after the first 2 minutes. We give a spoiler-free review, and then we go hard into the spoilers. We love
So
that.
what you're saying is that it's like the tip of the iceberg was the non-spoiler review, and then just pretty much the whole Earth.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
the rest of the video? Yeah.
It's just a tip.
Okay. a lot of sexual jokes tonight. So
Yeah.
let's move on to our last one. That was just Air Rider by Comic Ken. The last one we're doing is Descendant of the Vanquished by Abisa.
Well, welcome everybody. So this was the pick I chose this week, and so we kind of start with the classic narcissistic, mega rich doctor. They even have Mastermind as his title.
Is his name Stephen Strange?
It's close enough,
It
Eric
could be.
Barnett. And basically, in the total cliche, he announces to the world, "I have revolutionized the science in some way. I'm going to change the world." He reveals it by saying he's basically found a way to make time travel real. Which, okay, we're immediately thinking, hey, he's the main bad guy. He's going to be setting up all these things. We're going to get introduced to the hero now. We've set up that plot line. So we find out that his purpose wasn't to actually better the world in any way, shape, or form, but to actually find his long lost family's treasure, the Barnett family treasure. And the treasure was lost when a Briton trader, known only as the Fire Shooter, helped the Saxons destroy the specific town of Woodarthen. I'm gonna just go with that one for clarity's sake. So his staff is pretty distrusting. We're now in the laboratory, and we're about to go into his like first trial of going back in time. And his staff clearly doesn't like him, thinks he's a total asshole. He comes off like very condescending. They hate his face pretty much. He basically gets everything started. He's got 6 months worth of food on him, and he has this weapon to defend himself. And if anything does go wrong, he's able to call an emergency button and get pulled back. Despite all this like heated tension between them, the experiment goes off, and he's able to travel back in time. What they do immediately, though, is within 2 minutes of his departure, he returns, or it's presumed to be him, fully clad in armor. He's beaten to shit. He's missing a finger, and he's crying. And then we go hard cut to his travel back in time. So we're kind of left with this weird cliffhanger to reminisce on. So we cut back in time to his initial entrance into the time period. where after some brief travel, he finds a kind woman who assists him in getting directions to Wood'Arthen. He notes that this woman was the first person not to look at him with hatred or jealousy in his eyes, so he was kind of like taken aback by this. So when he arrives to Wood'Arthen, he's immediately harassed by some Britons who are mistaking him as a Saxon, and they go from literally throwing rocks at him and his shoulder to literally just punching him in the fucking face and knocking him out, which is totally how they did it back in the day. He wakes up to find that his nutrition canisters have been removed, and so he needs to find some form of food. He immediately thinks, I'm going to go back to the woman that helped me earlier. So he goes to her house, only to find that she's been murdered, and with her blood is written, "Death to all Saxons." So he gets all pissed. He ends up burying her, and in his rage, he goes to the king. I don't know if he's the king of Wood'Arthen or that area, that the opposite of them, and basically requests that he wants to get his vengeance on the Britons who killed this woman and take over Wood'Arthen with him. The king doesn't trust him. He's like, why should I, give any, credence or any trust in you? Immediately starts showing off his bolt weapon, which explodes shit. They all freak out and they're like, okay, cool. We'll get you training. We'll get you horses. We'll get you armor. So we cut to 3 weeks ahead of time. We're now at the beginning of the Battle of Wood'Arthen. He's still thinking that this is like the battle for his family or something like that. Like this is going to be, he's meant to be a part of this. And he immediately starts blowing the fuck up out of this town, pretty much single-handedly just massacring everything in a bloodlust. And in the middle of this, he's attacked and ends up losing his finger. And he's now like snapped. He's just saying, die, die, die. And he's about to kill this dude who just cut his finger off. And this dude now calls him Fire Shooter, which he then has this like blub moment where his like heart's exploding and he realizes, oh fuck, what have I done? I am the guy who lost the treasure. Like I killed my own family. I did all this shit. He pulls himself back into the future. He then drops to the floor and reveals what he has just found out, that he is the reason that the treasure has been lost. He is the infamous Fire Shooter. And that's where we cut off. So I liked it. The only problem I had with it was the story felt kind of jumpy at times, but I kind of liked the little twist. There was a few little plot holes that I didn't like. It kind of felt like it really just presumed like he wasn't gonna. Why would he kill people in Wood'Arthen if the treasure was in Wood'Arthen and he was a Briton?
Well, they talk about that.
Yeah,
because they set it up. So his wrist thing shoots light, my complaints with this one is it was very front loaded in lore dumping, but that's on purpose because they have to get a lot done in that short period of time. So there's the part like that what Josh was talking about where they describe the treasure and the Wood'Arthen or whatever, and it's literally just like a picture of a map with text all around it. It's like, oh man, we're going in, holy shit.
Yeah.
But it all comes into play later because I read all of that. Read the Fire Shooter shit, read the time travel, read the lights of, like they explain how his wrist weapon works, how it shoots lights of beams, or beam lights. I don't fucking know. But they kept talking about the Fire Shooter, and the Fire Shooter was like a throwaway, like, oh, what if you see the Fire Shooter? And I was like, okay. So in my mind, I immediately went, is he going to be like another time traveler that like goes back and stops people from fucking with the timeline? Like I thought it was going to be this whole thing. And I was so caught off guard, but they do talk about how basically he showed up, he had a game plan. Imagine you show up somewhere brand new. You get the shit beat out of you. They steal your shit. You go back to the one person who was nice to you. They murdered him because of you. And then he basically just went to the king, and the king is the one that mentions it because they go to do the big war. And I think his squire is like, wow, he's basically doing it all by himself. And he's like, yeah, he's just blinded by rage. It's like he's completely consumed by rage, and he's just taking out all these people. And it's not until he gets his finger cut off that he's like snaps out of it. He's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and it's just the weird part is like he clearly knows when he's getting harassed by those guys. They're like, oh, hey, fuck you, Saxon. He's like, oh, I'm not a Saxon. He knows his past. He knows that he's technically a Briton. He knows he's from Wood'Arthen. So I agree with you. Like, yeah, he's totally blinded by rage, but it was just weird for me to have that leap in logic where he's like, you know what? I remember the whole reason that we lost this treasure, the whole reason I'm coming back is because this dude blew up the fucking town. And we know we're just before that battle to have happened. it just felt a little like forced. But other
I
than
can
that,
see both sides of it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he is supposed to be like the smartest dude. He invented time travel.
Exactly.
But then they also always say, like, it's a saying that gets said all the time, is everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the face.
That's true.
It's just how it goes. And it's like, he got punched in the face. His one person of contact got fucking murdered. And he's like, hey, fuck these guys. I'm from the future. I'm going to fuck them up. And it's like, ooh.
He's had hubris from the start. So I definitely feel like he could totally forget what he was there for and just try to
But I liked the twist so much. I was like, I got done reading that. And like when he comes out, he's like, I am the fire shooter. I was like, dude, that was good, man. I was like, holy shit. And it's obviously, so I have two trains of thoughts on this. It is a competition of one shots. It really is. A lot of people are submitting their things as continuations, which is good. That's also a one shot. Like there was a Burn the Witch one shot. Samurai 8 had a one shot. That is something that happens to kind of introduce you to it and kind of sell you on this manga. This is very complete. Like, I don't know where you go from this. I guess he could keep going back in time and trying to fix his mistakes, but I don't know.
I was thinking like a medieval version of Tokyo Revengers where he's now trying to prevent himself from becoming fire shooter, or I don't know, maybe he's got to, because they make it seem like the guy who killed the Saxon girl like was somewhat important. He's running off. He's like,
they do show it, and it's like, I don't know, that was a little bit weird, so maybe they can use that. They can use that for something. But I just like, because he comes back and they already knew about the fire shooter, so clearly like it was meant to happen, like that had been him already in the past that they've known about for years and years and years, because he is that guy and they already knew about it. So nothing changes. And they do mention, I thought was very funny, I wrote it down, they're trying to like, are you sure you just want to go back to the past? And he's like, dude, the butterfly effect was made up by the government to try to stop you from going. I was like, fucking hell. I was like, man, just like the coronavirus, this government's up to some shit, dude. It was like, just like they can't fucking stop. But clearly the butterfly effect doesn't exist. I mean, maybe he's right in this world because it had already happened and him going back didn't do anything.
It was just cementing the whole thing happening.
Yeah, because there's the train of thought that the butterfly effect doesn't happen because no matter what, it'll repeat itself. Like you cause the past to make the future kind of situation. So without you going in the past, your current future, which was the fire shooter existed, wouldn't exist. So I'm curious if they'll go with that, because I know they did something like that in Avengers where it's like, oh, you go back and kill Hitler. Well, then Hitler becomes Hitler still because there's a new Hitler or some shit like that. There's just some bits in the storytelling, like the training arc kind of felt really rushed and unnecessary. Like the training
training arc could have been hard cut because he's from the future and he doesn't ever actually use a sword or anything.
No, he doesn't. He
just shoots his lights.
He just shoots everybody.
Yeah, and good catch on you, because I totally forgot about the light part. I actually had to read this twice because the ending felt cliche at some end at the beginning. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he blew up the fucking town. Now he's labeled the fire shooter. I went back and read it. I was like, oh, fuck, he wasn't supposed to do this. I didn't realize this was his family's treasure. Like, I just missed those like little key details. So, yeah.
I read it. So I walked into this one, so let me give you the Sam experience on reading this. Opened it up, and I was like, hey, the art style's a little unique. It's a little different. It's not your standard anime one. Started reading, it's like, art style's not the best. It's not my favorite I've ever seen. And then they do a shot where he's giving his speech to, the scientists that be, and they do like kind of like a from behind shot of him at the podium and all the tables. I'm like, oh, I really like that like angle where he drew all the tables. And then they started talking about the history, and I was like, yikes, this is a lot. And then they start going, and they're doing the Back to the Future thing. I'm like, oh, kind of dumb that he got beat up by those guys. He could have just shot him at any time, whatever. And then it kept going. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then it got to the end. I was like, oh, my God, that was good. It was like I was mediocre on it all the way through, and I was like, man, that ending.
Then it came back and just gave it to you differently. I was like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling that midway through it, I'm like, oh, he's going to become something he didn't want to be.
I had no feeling until he literally gets called fire shooter, and then I'm like, oh, it's like, okay.
And I gotta give him props for literally going from, hey, we're gonna do time travel, I'm gonna be back in 2 minutes, to shit's fucked,
to like, what the fuck happened.
He came back and they're like, okay, we're gonna tell you the story now. I like that a lot.
I did like the setup that they did, where they do show him coming back and he's like visibly shook, and then they do go back. I like that a lot.
he looks so different though. When I did the initial read through, I was like, oh, that's totally not him. And I think they started showing his armor towards the end, like, oh, I'm ready for my own battle situation. I didn't put it together. I was like, oh shit, that is him. That's his fucking armor. And then that second read through, again, like same shit Sam
It just
had. I
kind
was
of
like,
clicked.
oh fuck, he wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That was good,
so,
dude.
yeah,
That was a
it
good
was
twist.
definitely good.
Okay, so those were the 3 we did this week. Once again, to recap, we did Runebound by Natalia Batista, we did Air Rider by Comet Ken, and Descendant of the Vanquished by Abisa. This is the part where we will kind of compare and contrast, see what we like the most, and kind of decide which one we thought was the best, which realistically, I liked them all quite a bit this week. I don't know about
They
you
were
guys.
all pretty unique this time.
Yeah,
I
think it was a very good
I
batch.
had a hard time to choose.
Josh, do you want to say which one you liked the most? What you liked most about it?
I see. I'm having trouble because I was kind of lukewarm. I like having these discussions with you because you guys both bring out like good points, and I definitely changed my mind. But with like Air Rider, the art style is unique. I love the fucking boys, and if it goes in that general direction, like holy shit, that's gonna be fun. Runebound, I feel like has this like great stable situation. The art's great. They could go in any number of ways, and like Sam had a million different ways for them to start building their thing. Having tropes and having like key situations where like, okay, this is gonna happen or this is gonna happen doesn't mean that it's bad. Like you already think in your head, oh, how's this gonna go off? But I do agree the whole like twist and fate situation with Descendant of the Vanquished. And I gotta say, for the first time, this is the title of a manga where it was like, okay, that actually makes sense. Like there's some where it's just
Yeah.
like Air Rider, we don't have anything to
Runebound,
go off of.
hello there.
Runebound makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. But Descendant of the Vanquished, you don't get it until you finish it. And it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And I just like that kind of nod. I'm probably gonna go with Runebound for right now. I feel like it's a very complete package and it's very well done.
All right, Jose, what about you? Any stand out? Any that you like the most? Pick a winner.
I liked all 3 of them. In my opinion, the most anime one was Ruinbound. Like, it just gave me the whole manga feel and everything. Plus the Nordic thing, that's a huge thing for me. I really like it, and I do often go out of my way to kind of figure out some of that stuff. With Air Rider, I was kind of hoping that it wasn't going to be like a My Hero standard thing where it was going to be like, oh, this is a high school, this is what we do. So, and it did that completely different. So I was pretty happy with that one. And I'm just like, okay, so it could go the anti-hero. It could go this way. And I thought that was cool. Descendant of the Vanquished was just like, damn, dude, that twist at the end.
I think that describes that one perfectly. Damn. Yeah. It's like, okay.
But I will have to go with Ruinbound for me.
That doesn't surprise me. I saw that one, Jose, and I gave it a little flick, and I was like, Jose is going to like this one. I could already tell. It's like, it just looks really good. I would probably go with Runebound as well. Just like, I like Comic Ken is probably my least favorite of the 3. I still liked it, but I felt like the art style is just not my favorite. It's the old-timey classic sort of setup. And it can be good, but it didn't really hit anything for me. Descendant of the Vanquished is fucking, like we said, oh man, that was a banger. That was really good. And I really do think almost for me they would Runebound and Descendant of the Vanquished would be tied because they are both really good. And Runebound, of course, just seemed the most polished, the most altogether. The storyline leaves the most open for me to want to see. I really like Hilda from what I can tell. She doesn't break any barriers, and I love Familiar of Zero, so I'll take another one, especially with the Nordic theme.
I bet Hilda will become more badass as like it progressed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I hope Aske goes badass as fuck too.
Yeah.
What if Sam's little theory of like bad people, having a cult and just yeeting their life force.
I totally see that. That could be such a huge thing.
It becomes a trope, and Aske literally dies every fight. And the muses are like, oh my fucking god, this one
it's a braid at this point.
They start like taking turns, like the first person did it. It's like, I thought you tied that. Yeah, I did. I don't know. And then it's like the next person goes and snaps again. It's like, are you guys both stupid? It's like, let me give a go.
But then they're obsessed with it at this point. They cannot let this guy's got like infinite life.
It's a giant ball of knot.
They like tie it to the tree at one point.
But I gotta say, for Descendant of the Vanquished, if things were a little bit more polished up in the beginning, if they kind of got you entranced in the story, like maybe that you did feel like this guy was going to be the bad guy, or I don't know. Like we said, the training arc seemed a little weird. There wasn't something about it that was important. If they trimmed the fat or really honed in on a few things, I feel like it could have won. Like,
Yeah, my biggest gripe with Descendant of the Vanquished is just that the training arc felt really like I didn't need to see it.
It wasn't.
Really
we didn't need it for anything really. It didn't give us any extra
the
names.
art style is not my favorite. So,
yeah, but I mean that can be fixed with another artist, or they, it. I don't think it was necessarily bad, like you said. Some of the like shots were good. If it's just like cleaned up.
The angles on a lot of the panels were actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
And the storyline was fantastic. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so congratulations to Runebound. You're going to be our winner. You'll go on to the Fight of Champions whenever that eventually happens. Jesus Christ, we're going to have so many. That was once again by Natalia Batista, so congratulations. If you guys like that video, be sure to leave us a like and subscribe. We do these things every week. Every Friday they come out at 4 a.m. PST if I can edit them and get them up in time. So look forward to that. We are going to continue doing viewer submissions, so if you have gotten one in that we don't have yet, be sure to leave a comment and let us know. We'll be mixing in some more regular ones because I've got quite a few good recommendations from you guys, the viewers watching, of ones that are just really good that we haven't checked out, so we might throw some of those in there. But until then, we're just going to keep chugging. We're going to keep going through. We got a fat list. Check our end screen if you want to see the previous winners, and I have everything in a playlist, so check it out if you want to watch the rest of them. Once again, thanks for watching. Follow us on Twitter. We're at The Otaku. Instagram, at The Otaku. We pimp out all of our stuff. Oh, and I never mention it. I always forget. If you're still watching at this point, I don't know what you're doing. But check the link in the description because I link to all of the books, all of the mangas that we read. So really check them out for yourself because we do kind of summarize some bits. We skip around. So if you want the full experience, definitely check them out. And then I do link out to usually their Twitters on our Twitter once the video goes up. So check that out as well. Support the people of the manga that you like. Some of them don't have as much of a following as others, so definitely check that out. Okay, for real this time, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.